When listening to the scripture readings for the first Sunday of Advent, did you notice a theme or words that were repeated? Matthew reads, "But about that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels nor the Son. They knew nothing until the flood came and swept them away." If the owners of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, Romans reads, "Besides this, you know what time it is, how it is now the moment for you to awake from sleep." I don't know about you, but I am not fond of not knowing. In seminary, I had a professor who was preparing us for our final meeting with Synod's examining committee, the committee that decided if we were indeed candidates for ordination. The professor related a story of taking a cue card to her examination. On the card were written 3 things. 1, breathe. 2, my name is. And 3, it's okay to say, I don't know. That was almost 25 years ago. And although I think about this story, I am hard-pressed to admit I don't know. And if I do not know, I will say I think and then find out and pass on my knowledge. Today's scripture text scratched my humanness, throwing my biggest pet peeve in my face, not knowing, others not knowing, my want and my desire to be in the know, my deepest fear to not know and appear stupid. And the texts scratch my weaknesses, a lust for knowledge, pride in the knowledge I have, pride in the knowledge known, knowledge used as tools to judge others, and an annoying knowledge of an undeveloped virtue. It came to my attention in the words that greeted me on the Working Preacher website commentary from Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota. Their focus sentence for the week: not knowing is a condition we are to embrace, not attempt to overcome. Not knowing is a condition we are to embrace, not attempt to overcome. I have a lot of work to do. Embrace not knowing. Advent is the ideal time to get to work. Through readings, hymns, themes of preparing, watching, and waiting, along with the shorter days, the season lends itself to contemplation. During this Advent season, prepared midweek services focus on the discipline of spiritual practices: breathing, releasing, receiving, and rejoicing. I don't know how much the disciplines will help, what I will find, or where I might end up through practice and contemplation, but I will try, for myself, but also for my relationship with others. Psychoanalysis Carl Jung noted, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Preparing oneself prepares one to welcome others, to embrace humanity, the knowing and the unknown. Wanting to know more. To prepare myself for Year A in the lectionary, this year we explore the gospel through the eyes of Matthew. I read a section of Douglas Hare's commentary on Matthew. In it, he reminds readers of all they need to know. The Gospel of Matthew is a fusion of gospel and ethics, of faith and morality. Jesus' moral imperatives are to be taken seriously and lived out in the lives of those confessing to belong to Christ. As the disciples are commissioned at the end of the gospel, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them, teaching them. Matthew sums up his focus. Preaching is not mentioned. The invitation is inclusive. Baptism is given without prerequisites. The gospel is shared by the disciples, going and living ethical lives that are grounded in faith. Specifically, the scripture portion read today chides those wanting to know. People have spent a lot of time trying to determine the day that the Lord will return, the when, how, and who. Matthew encourages, directs Messiah receivers to live faithfully, to live faithful, ethical lives, and to consider and acknowledge God's delay in returning, and this returning delay as a time of grace, for more to hear and for more to receive the good news. Paul's writing in Romans echoes and builds on Matthew. Besides this, you know what time it is, how it is now the moment for you to wake from sleep. Put on Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires. For those of you who are like me and want to know, the notion of putting on Jesus Christ is an image of what it means to be a follower of the Messiah. It is a practice of preparedness, preparing ourselves like we do when getting dressed. For me, getting dressed to celebrate Christmas, the coming of Christ, is embracing not knowing, facing my humanness and weaknesses, and delighting in God taking God's time to return. For at least the past 60 years, North American Lutherans have been directed to know the particulars of how to live into the present moment and wake from sleep. In the weekly offering and post-communion prayers, 3 generations of Lutherans have stated how it is that faithful living and ethics go hand in hand. We state that our lives are an offering and that we live out the grace that we have received. From the service book and hymnal, modernized in the LBW, we prayed, "We offer with joy and thanksgiving what you have first given us, ourselves, our time, and our possessions. With these gifts, we offer ourselves to your service and dedicate our lives to the care and redemption of all that you have made. Strengthen us through this gift, in faith toward you and in fervent love toward one another. Unite the wills of those whom you have fed. Enable us to receive Jesus always with thanksgiving and to conform our lives to his." In 2006, from the ELW, turn our hearts towards those who hunger in any way, that all may know your care. Nourish us with these gifts that we might be for the world signs of your gracious presence. Use us and what we have gathered in feeding the world with your love, that we may serve all in need and give ourselves away as bread for the hungry, that we may proclaim your redeeming love to the world. And now, from all creation sings, nourish us to proclaim your abiding love in our communities and in the world. Open our hearts to share what we have received, to keep your word and proclaim the power of your love in Jesus Christ, that we may do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with you. We do not know the hour or the time of Christ's return. We do not know the particulars. I can embrace this not knowing by changing my focus to be on ethical and faithful living, to practice living life, to be an offering